Video rental store had been around for decades, and I think that the most magical time was the late 90s because it was a place where, sure, you could go there for the latest and greatest, the newest rental, but it was also a place where you could go there if you were looking for an adventure. And these movies here, you picked up all these movies based on the cover. You didn't need to know the plot to know that you wanted to take them home. But once you found out about the plot, you were probably going to have a few late nights and some late fees. And the first one you grabbed was this movie, 1941, with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. John Candy also stars in this film, and while the cover is complete chaos and intriguing enough, the movie is even better. Takes place in Los Angeles a few days after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and all of a sudden the entire city of Los Angeles is afraid that they're going to be invaded by the Japanese. It's complete chaos. There's ridiculous scenes. The whole anti-aircraft gun scene, I think, is probably one of my all-time favorites. But you have Ned Beatty, John Candy, a great cast of who's who for comedy in this movie.
In this house.
Excuse us, ma'am.
Hello? And on top of this movie being completely zany, it's directed by Steven Spielberg. In the very beginning of the movie, there's a woman skinny dipping in the ocean, and then all of a sudden you have the callback to Jaws. But instead of a shark, there's a Japanese submarine that emerges from the water, and the woman is attached to the submarine fighting for her life. You have just this wild, ridiculous dance hall choreography fight scene where this one guy's trying to get away from somebody else who's trying to beat him up, but everybody's dancing. They don't stop it. They keep trying to get away and then pursue. But with this, you also have the wild, unhinged, crazy energy from John Belushi, and while he's a pilot and he's flying the plane, you see that on the cover, it's a little bit more ridiculous once the film starts. He's yelling in the cockpit. At some point, he breaks a bottle to drink out of it because he can't find the bottle opener, and so now he's got broken glass and...
Lost.
You also have Ned Beatty in this film, who I think steals the show with the anti-aircraft gun scene, and it's over the top. So this is something that, while you rented it based on the cover, once you got into it, it was something that you were probably going to go back to a few more times. So now here's a movie that more than likely you didn't forget about, but when you went to go see it, it was a movie that the cover did all the work, and it was also something you never had to dig for. It was usually towards the top shelf. You could see it from a mile away because this cover did all the heavy lifting, and we're talking about Striptease. And when you rented this, you probably assumed it was just a sleazy movie or at best a sleazy comedy. But once you got into it, you realize that it's a little bit more than that. It has a lot more heart. Demi Moore's character, she has to take a job to get full custody of her kid and just figure things out.
That hardly qualifies him to raise a 7-year-old child.
Neither does being a mother without a job.
And then along the way, she meets Burt Reynolds, who is completely obsessed with her, but he's utterly hilarious in this film. He's a corrupt congressman, and then she gets involved in this political scandal. And so while you went in thinking it was a sleazy movie, what most people discovered about this film was after they rented it, it was just this weird crime comedy that seemed to have heart.
You follow politics, Mr. Shat?
Do I look like I follow politics?
Burt Reynolds stole every scene that he was in because he played one of the most insane characters from the 90s.
Why are you all shiny?
It's Vaseline.
Oh, it's Vaseline.
I can feel it squishing between my toes.
All right, okay.
This movie is kind of messy, but I think that's why most people remember it, and it's also a movie that feels like it's a product of its time.
You know, my neck really feels better, Uncle Al.
Oh, yeah? How's it feel now?
Now, the next movie you rented, because when you look at the cover, it just has that, like, what the hell is this kind of vibe, and it's Miracle Mile. So that's the cover of it. And while it looks crazy and it looks like the, just complete, almost like a disaster type of film, and that's what you think you're getting into, but it's not quite that. But what you ended up getting with this film is more strange. A guy answers a payphone and he hears on the other end a soldier saying that they're going to drop a nuclear bomb, and basically you got 50 minutes left. And so then there's a race across LA in the last 50 minutes trying to survive, and there's the inevitable ending of the world. And slowly everyone in the city starts to realize that, so then it turns into complete and utter chaos. Why the cover worked on this one is it had the 80s thriller vibe, and it felt like this apocalyptic, end-of-the-world, future type of movie, and you weren't really sure what you were getting into, so it was the mystery that sold it.
And I ate the drugstore.
The whole thing takes place over one night in this surreal, panic-driven thriller, and most people found it based on this cover.
Listen, I'm just a guy who picked up the phone.
Now the next one here is a movie that it lived in the video rental store, but it was always rented out. And this is a movie with David Spade and Sophie Marceau, and it's Lost and Found. Now that cover alone is enough to pick it up off the shelf, but this is a movie that, with all the Saturday Night Live connection to David Spade, and people enjoyed his comedy, and his movies were always part of the conversation. If you talked about Adam Sandler movies, you were usually also talking about some David Spade films. And this is a movie that I don't think anybody was talking about, but it was always rented based on the cover. And it's just wild and crazy. And so what you're getting with this film is something a little different than what you might expect with this.
Dylan Ramsey just met the perfect girl.
So David Spade's character really wants to just have a conversation, get to know Sophie Marceau's character, but she doesn't have the time of day. She also has a boyfriend, and so while she's nice and polite, he does anything he can do to get her attention, including kidnapping her dog and then pretending to look for the dog while he had it in his apartment the entire time. And so this is a little bit slapstick, it's a little bit goofy, and the question was asked in the trailer of this movie, what would you do to get the girl of your dreams? And I guess David Spade stole the dog. And this is just something that, well, you rented it based on the cover. It's a fun comedy.
You stole her dog? Let's just say I borrowed him. We'd go look for Jack, we'd have some fun together, she'd like me, then I'd return him, I'd be a hero.
His want to spend time with the girl of his dreams leads to increasing ridiculous situations that just end with a weird, quirky, goofy rom-com.
Did.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
I'll go make the bed.
This is one of those perfect rentals that just remind you that sometimes comedies don't have to be perfectly safe.
I'll raise you your shorts. You couldn't raise my shorts with a crane.
Now we have one that, it's an erotic thriller, but it also had this, where are you going to put this? Do you put this with the erotic thrillers? Is this just a drama? It has a weird vibe throughout the entire movie, but the cover screams erotic thriller in the vein of Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction. You have Sharon Stone attached to this film, but this cover, it's very risky, and it's something that you feel like you know what you're getting into, and you honestly don't with this film. This movie stars Sharon Stone, William Baldwin, Tom Berenger, and the movie is Sliver. So on the cover, that is completely why it was rented out. It worked because it is not a safe cover. You really feel like you know what's going to happen, and it's just a sex film. But it's a little bit more than that, because Sharon Stone's character, she rents an apartment in this luxury apartment building, and then very quickly she realizes there are deaths attached to the building, they're mysterious. And then Sharon Stone finds out that somebody's watching all of the tenants through these hidden cameras. So then it turns into this paranoia thriller of who did it and who is the killer.
He is. You like to watch?
You're afraid of me.
Like a girl who would be.
This movie is very much part of the erotic thriller boom in the 90s, but it was a video rental store staple. Every video store had this weird aisle that had just random things, because there was not enough of these films to stretch out an entire aisle. You'd have little 4-foot sections of blaxploitation or special interest or workout videos. And while that aisle was almost never rented out, I think almost everybody went down that aisle. But this is the one movie, and I ended up finding it later, because this is the one movie that I constantly put back, but I never saw anybody rent this one. So it always felt like a dirty midday afternoon rental where somebody would leave work, they'd come rent the tape, and then they would put it in the overnight drop box, because it had that, like, it feels a little dirty, but it's not. It's completely safe. And at the time, we had this culture of Sports Illustrated swimsuit models, and this was a behind the scenes, the official swimsuit video with Kathy Ireland on the cover. Now, this was paid for by Dodge. There's 2 Dodge commercials in the beginning of this, but this is something that you didn't have just the girls in the swimsuits. It was all behind the scenes. So any of your favorite models, you just wanted to know more. That's what this was. It was them laughing. It was them actually doing the shoots, how some of those iconic photos ended up being some of the coldest places on Earth because they're all wearing winter coats, but in the photos, they're done out in bikinis. And so you have that, you have the background information, you have Kathy Ireland specifically talking about how it was cold, but the money was worth it.
Be uncomfortable at times or cold or whatever, but on the other hand, you think about how much money you're making and you put the pain out of your mind pretty quickly.
This video series wasn't just about seeing women in bikinis. These were the women that were more than supermodels. These were household names. Some of these women leapt off the pages of the photo magazines into movies. Kathy Ireland did a few. And so that was something that getting into this, the behind the scenes, ended up being very popular and actually pretty enjoyable.
Bob, do you want me wet?
Just stay like that till the model comes out.
Renting tapes was always a gamble. Sometimes you were going to get a hidden gem. Other times the cover led you to believe it was going to be something completely different. But very soon we're going to be diving into that weird aisle in the video store. For now, enjoy your rentals. You're going to want to check out this video right here for more movie recommendations. With that, remember to watch a movie today, and I'll catch you guys next time.